This podcast is brought to you by The Senior Techie, a source of information for seniors and others about technology. Hello, it is really great to be back with you today. We have a really fascinating set of data to get through, and I want to start by asking you a question. When you think of brain health, specifically protecting your mind as you age, what is the very first image that pops into your head? Be honest.
Honestly, probably crossword puzzle or, maybe a handful of vitamins.
Right. We've been completely conditioned to think of brain health as this sort of diet and puzzle game. I mean, I picture a giant bottle of ginkgo biloba, a Sudoku book, and definitely a bowl of blueberries.
Yeah. And look, we aren't here to bash blueberries. Antioxidants are great. Crossword puzzles are fun. But the report we're looking at today, which is the Senior Techies Week 4 Brain Health Series, suggests we might be focusing on the minor league players while the heavy hitters are just sitting on the bench.
That is the twist here. The Senior Techie identifies two incredibly powerful strategies for protecting cognitive function that get almost no attention compared to diets and apps. And honestly, they're arguably much more practical for seniors, though maybe a bit harder to implement than just swallowing a pill.
They really are. We're looking at two main pillars today: staying socially connected and preventing physical brain injury.
So no pills, no apps, just people and safety. It sounds almost too simple to be medical advice.
In a nutshell, yeah. But the science behind why these two things matter is just fascinating. It's not just a matter of saying, hey, it's nice to have friends. It is about biological resilience. The Senior Techie highlights that these factors are creating actual physical changes in the brain structure.
Well, let's unpack this, because this discussion is specifically for the learner who wants to understand the why behind the advice. We aren't just going to tell you to go make a friend. We want to look at what is physically happening in your neurons when you do. So let's start with the social aspect. The report calls it the social brain workout.
I love that phrasing. It reframes the activity entirely.
I have to play devil's advocate for a second here. Why is chatting with a neighbor better than, say, a dedicated brain training app? I mean, those apps are specifically designed by neuroscientists to test your memory and reaction time. Talking to someone about the weather just feels, well, it feels passive.
It feels easy because you've been doing it your whole life. But neurologically, a genuine conversation is an Olympic-level event for your brain. Think about what is happening when you and I are talking right now.
Okay, I am listening to you. I'm thinking about what I want to say next. I'm trying not to stutter or lose my train of thought.
Precisely. But break it down even further. You are processing the sound waves of my voice into language in real time. You're interpreting the syntax and meaning. You are reading my facial expressions, my micro-expressions, and my tone to gauge my emotion. You're retrieving memories to give context to what we are discussing. And this is the hardest part. You are inhibiting the impulse to interrupt while formulating your response.
When you put it that way, it actually sounds exhausting. It's intense multitasking.
It is the ultimate multitasking. It activates multiple regions of the brain simultaneously. The temporal lobe for language, the frontal lobe for executive function, the amygdala for emotion. No app can replicate that level of complexity because apps are usually linear. They test one specific skill at a time. Conversation integrates everything.
So the workout isn't necessarily the content of the chat. We don't have to be discussing quantum physics. It is the complexity of the interaction itself.
You hit the nail on the head. And we have hard data to back this up. The Senior Techie points to research from Rush University Medical Center. They found something really compelling when they tracked older adults' social activity levels over a significant period.
What did they find? Was it a noticeable difference?
A massive one. They found that people with frequent social activity had a much slower rate of cognitive decline than those who were more isolated. But here's the kicker, and this is why this study matters. This held true even after they accounted for things like physical health and education levels.
Oh, that is really interesting, because usually you just assume healthy people socialize more. If I feel good, I go out. If I feel sick, I stay home.
Right. They controlled for that. It wasn't just that healthy people socialize. It was that the socializing itself seemed to be the protective factor. It effectively isolates social connection as a primary variable.
But sadly, we know the reverse is true as well. The report highlights the danger of isolation. We hear the word loneliness a lot, but usually in an emotional sense. We don't often hear it described as a medical risk.
We really need to start thinking of it that way. Chronic social isolation is biologically hard on the body. It raises levels of cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Right. It puts your body in a low-grade fight-or-flight mode constantly. And high levels of cortisol over time are toxic to the brain. Specifically, cortisol can damage the hippocampus.
And for those of us who skipped biology class, remind us what the hippocampus does.
That is the part of the brain most involved in memory formation and retrieval. Think of it as the save button on your computer. It is one of the first areas affected by conditions like Alzheimer's. So when we say loneliness hurts the brain, we don't just mean it makes you sad, though it certainly does. We mean it physically impacts the structure of your memory center.
That is a sobering thought. It transforms loneliness from a mood to a pathology, but it also gives us a clear path to action. If isolation is the poison, connection is the antidote.
That's the idea. And this brings us to a concept the senior techie introduces called cognitive reserve.
I really liked this concept when I read the report. It sounds like a financial term, like a savings account for your brain.
That is a perfect analogy. Imagine your brain's functionality as a bank account. Every time you engage in routine social contact, joining a club, going to a faith community, meeting a group for coffee, you are making a deposit. You are building up this reserve.
And what are we saving up for?
We are saving up for the inevitable wear and tear. Aging causes damage. Small, unnoticed strokes cause damage. Even the early stages of Alzheimer's cause plaque buildup. Cognitive reserve acts as a buffer.
So wait, are you saying two people could have the same amount of physical plaque or damage in their brains, but the one with the high reserve might not show symptoms?
Spot on. That is what the theory suggests. The more reserve you build, the more damage your brain can tolerate before you actually start noticing memory loss or confusion. You are essentially over-engineering your brain's network so it has backup routes if one road gets blocked.
That is incredibly empowering. It means we aren't helpless as we get older. We can build that buffer. Now, the senior techie mentions volunteering specifically as a great way to do this. Why volunteering in particular? Is it different from just hanging out with friends at a coffee shop?
It seems to have a unique benefit. It touches on that sense of purpose aspect.
Yeah.
The senior techie references a study in the journal Psychological Science that looks specifically at older adults who volunteered regularly.
And what did they see there?
Better memory performance and higher levels of positive affect, which is just researcher speak for better mood and outlook, compared to those who didn't volunteer.
I wonder if it is the commitment aspect. You know, people are actually counting on you to show up.
I think that is a huge part of it. It's about feeling useful. It's about being connected to something bigger than yourself. When you feel useful, your brain releases different neurochemicals like dopamine and oxytocin than when you were just passively consuming entertainment.
And the good news is the senior techie notes that this doesn't have to be a 24/7 job. You don't have to run the charity to get the benefits.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
A few hours a week is enough to move the needle. It is the consistency that matters, not the sheer volume of hours.
Now, speaking of consistency in people, the senior techie makes an important distinction about the type of friends we need. It is not just about quantity. We aren't trying to win a popularity contest here.
This is the quality of connections segment. And it is crucial. We aren't just talking about acquaintances, the person you say hello to at the grocery store. While those interactions are nice, they don't carry the same weight for brain health as close, trusting relationships.
Why is that? Why does my brain care if I trust the person?
Because trust requires vulnerability. It requires shared history. When you are with a close friend, you are accessing a complex web of past memories, inside jokes, and emotional safety. That creates a deeper level of mental engagement. Plus, emotional safety lowers that cortisol we talked about earlier.
It goes back to that workout analogy. An acquaintance is like a light warm-up. A close friend is heavy lifting.
In a way, yes. The report suggests that nurturing 2 or 3 close friendships may do more for your long-term brain health than joining every club in town just to have a busy calendar.
That is a relief, actually. It takes the pressure off. But there is a challenge here, especially for seniors. The senior techie points out that social circles naturally tend to shrink after retirement.
It's a reality for many. You leave the workforce, and suddenly you lose that built-in daily interaction with colleagues. If you don't replace it, your world gets smaller.
So reconnecting with old friends or making new ones isn't just a nice thing to do.
No. It is a legitimate medical strategy. It is as important as taking your blood pressure medication. If your circle has shrunk, you have to be active about fixing it.
Okay, so that is the inside-out protection strengthening the brain through connection and reserve. Now we need to pivot to the second half of the senior techies report. This is the outside-in protection.
The physical threat.
This part really struck me because, again, when I think brain injury, I think of football players or boxers. I don't think of a 70-year-old in their living room.
And that misconception is dangerous. These senior techie highlights a very startling statistic. Falls are the leading cause of traumatic brain injury, or TBI, in adults over 65.
The leading cause, more than car accidents.
Yes, the leading cause. We aren't talking about contact sports. We're talking about tripping on a rug or slipping in the bathroom.
I think many seniors feel like, well, I'm not doing anything risky, so I am safe.
But if you fall on a bathroom floor or a concrete driveway, that is a serious neurological event. The skull stops moving when it hits the ground, but the brain inside keeps moving and hits the skull. Even a mild concussion can have lasting effects.
And what's the link to long-term health?
Brain injury significantly raises the risk of cognitive decline and dementia later on. It is cumulative. The brain does not like being shaken.
So let's get practical. The Senior Techie provides a fall prevention checklist. I want to run through this because these are things every single listener can check right now.
Just do it.
First one, remove throw rugs and clutter from walking paths.
This is a classic battle. People love their throw rugs. They're decorative. But for a senior, a throw rug is a trip hazard waiting to happen. As we age, our gait changes. We shuffle a bit more. If your foot doesn't lift quite as high as it used to, that edge helps catch you. The Senior Techie really emphasizes this point. Get them out of the walking paths.
Next up, install grab bars in the shower and next to the toilet.
And I know people resist this. They think it makes the house look institutional or old. But you have to reframe it. It is not about being old. It is about being smart. It is safety equipment.
Absolutely. Third point, lighting.
Ensure the home is well lit, especially at night. As we age, our eyes need more light to see contrast. A shadow on the stairs can look like a step. Good lighting prevents that confusion.
And speaking of eyes, the checklist mentions vision checks.
Poor vision is a major risk factor for falls. If you aren't seeing the depth changes in the floor, you're going to trip. Get your eyes checked regularly.
And shoes.
Wear shoes with non-slip soles, even indoors. Socks on a hardwood floor are like ice skates. It is just physics.
The checklist also mentions medications.
Yes, talk to your doctor. Many common medications for blood pressure or allergies can cause dizziness or lightheadedness upon standing, which is called orthostatic hypotension. If you know that is a side effect, you can take precautions.
Now, beyond just proofing the house, the Senior Techie talks about preparing the body, physical preparation.
Strength training and balance exercises. They recommend things like Tai Chi or simple single-leg stands.
Single-leg stands, like just standing on one foot.
It sounds simple, but try doing it safely near a counter you can grab. It builds the microscopic stabilizer muscles in your ankles and legs. This isn't about vanity or looking good at the beach. It is about brain safety. If you stumble, those muscles are what catch you before your head hits the ground.
That is a great way to think about it. It is armor for your brain.
It really is.
Now, before we wrap up, we have to talk about vehicles, and not just cars. The Senior Techie has a section on helmets that is pretty uncompromising.
No exceptions. That is the phrase they use. If you are on a bike, you wear a helmet.
And they specifically mention e-bikes. Those are exploding in popularity with seniors right now.
They are, because they make cycling easier, but they also make cycling much faster. You can easily hit 20 miles per hour on an e-bike with very little effort.
And 20 miles per hour feels very different when you are 70 versus when you are 20.
Reflexes are slower, and bone density is lower. But the physics of the crash are exactly the same. If you come off at that speed, the impact is severe. An e-bike crash is not the same as falling off a beach cruiser at walking speed.
What about cars?
Seatbelts, non-negotiable. It sounds obvious, but the difference between a bruised chest and a TBI often comes down to that strap. It prevents your head from becoming a projectile inside the vehicle.
And for the more adventurous seniors, the report mentions horseback riding, ATVs.
If you are riding it, protect your head. Every single time. The takeaway here is biological. Neurons do not regenerate the way broken bones do.
That is the hard truth, isn't it? If I break my arm, it heals.
It knits back together, often stronger. But the brain, once neurons are damaged by significant impact, they don't grow back. The brain doesn't get a second chance after a major trauma. That is why prevention is the only real strategy.
So when we look at this whole picture, we have these two seemingly unrelated things, socializing and fall prevention. One is soft and emotional friendship, vulnerability, chatting. The other is hard and physical helmets, grip tape, grab bars. But the Senior Techie ties them together.
They're tied together by intentionality. Neither of these things happens on autopilot. You naturally drift toward isolation as you age unless you fight it. You naturally become more prone to falls unless you prepare for it.
So the message is be intentional, don't just drift.
You put it perfectly. Protect the brain from the outside in, That is the safety stuff. And from the inside out, that is the connection.
I love that summary. So here is our call to action for you, the listener, straight from the senior techie. Pick one social commitment, just one, and put it on the calendar immediately.
Call that friend you haven't spoken to in 6 months.
For sure.
Or look up the schedule for the local community center and just show up.
And for the physical side, walk through your home with fresh eyes. Pretend you are a safety inspector. Look for that loose rug. Check that light bulb on the stairs.
It might take 10 minutes, but it could save your brain.
It has been a really eye-opening discussion. It's nice to know that protecting our minds is about more than just Sudoku. Before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We've talked about intentionality today. What if we started treating our social calendars like a strict medical prescription? If your doctor prescribed a pill to keep your memory intact, you'd take it every day without fail. Maybe it's time we view calling a friend with that exact same level of urgency.
That is a brilliant way to frame it.
This podcast was brought to you by The Senior Techie. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. If you'd like to keep up with their newsletters, you can subscribe for free by going to subscribe.theseniortechie.com.